Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us on the Noon News. I'm Andrea Lutz. A favorite Montana author has a new book out touting Montana's rich history. We have the story behind that book coming up, but first. Great Falls Public Schools, they're closing their doors and returning to remote learning this week. Well, the move is just for right now. This is the district deals with a spike in COVID-19 cases. 185 Great Falls students and staff were out with the virus just this week. Another reason for that shutdown, though, according to officials, is a lack of substitute teachers. District leaders say 54 classrooms in Great Falls would have been left without someone to cover for the already infected teachers. Health officials are sending out a message to Americans to donate blood. The Red Cross says some blood centers across the country have less than a day supply. The pandemic has caused a decline in donor turnout and the cancellation of blood drives and staffing shortages. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris are heading to Georgia to advocate for voting rights. They're pushing for 2 new bills to create national election standards. Many Republicans oppose more federal power, though, over elections. Goldman Sachs expects the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates again in March, June, September, and December. The new forecast is in response to high inflation and low unemployment. And that's today's Leading Look.
A day where we're going to see those temperatures staying above normal again. A lot of 40s across the board and some 30s. You can see we have the snow, a chance of it up here in the northwest corner of the state. Are these warmer than normal temperatures going to hang on? Well, let's take a look at some outlooks. Now, these are trends that can absolutely change. But this Sunday through next week, the 6 to 10 day temperature trend shows that majority of the region, we're going to be leaning warmer than average. We extend that to the 8 to 14 day temperature trend, January 18th to the 24th. It looks like we're going to try to get more to near normal, maybe up in the northeast corner, leaning cooler than average. These are trends that could change. It's something we'll definitely keep an eye on. Stick around. I got your full forecast coming up here in just a bit.
From the flood of 1964 to the Custer Creek train wreck outside of Miles City in 1938, Butch Larkham's original articles for Montana Quarterly magazine ignited a passion for his latest book, Montana Disasters.
What really it turned out to me is that these are all interesting events in Montana history and ones that are worth remembering. And I thought by doing a book and trying to do good research around them, that it would help people remember them.
The book includes about 25 full accounts on disasters dating back to 1895, with references and short passages on others. Larkham says it wasn't easy to narrow it down, and it's not necessarily a list of the worst disasters.
There's no yardstick that's used to measure a disaster. You know, a disaster is in the eye of the beholder. And but I looked for ones where I thought there was an interesting human story around the event and tried to get in contact or at least recall the experiences of the people that were involved, so put a human face on these stories.
Larkham says some of the state's lesser-known events are his favorite stories. A 1931 fire west of Choteau on the Rocky Mountain front killed 5 firefighters. In 1950, the Browning High boys basketball team was staying overnight in Eureka after a game. In the middle of that cold winter night, the hotel boiler blew up, setting the hotel on fire.
Many of the team members were able to escape by jumping out of second-story windows into snowbanks, and they actually almost threw their coach through the window to get him out because he wanted to stay and look for other players. But as it turned out, 2 of their teammates were lost in a fire and 3 other people died in that fire. And
the book's subtitle is True Stories of Treasure State Tragedies and Triumphs. Larkham says the triumph comes in some of the personal stories of people moving on, as well as the changes brought about by some of the disasters in areas such as mine safety and wildland firefighting.
There's a couple stories about mine disasters in the book, and I think the awareness and need for mine safety was improved dramatically after those events. Similarly, with some of the wildfire events, you know, fighting wildfires in the early days was a pretty hazardous occupation and people didn't have much training. And after people saw how dangerous it was, they slowly adopted better training and better standards for firefighters.
Tim McGonigal, MTN News.